Welcome once again to the GrayDayMovies.com podcast. I'm Larry Lannon. I write movie reviews at LarryandFishers.com, and I have two reviewers from GrayDayMovies.com. They also put their material on thefilmyap.com as well. Alec Toombs is with us. Alec, welcome back. Always good to talk to you.
Good morning, Larry. Good to see you, fellas.
And Adam Austin, welcome back. You also have a new job now.
Oh, yeah. So I'll be writing press releases as a press secretary for the Indiana House Republicans. So be assigned to a few state representatives.
So will you be spending time at the state house, or will you be working from home?
So I'm very excited about the job. The only thing I'm not excited about, and I don't even hope my boss hears this, that's fine, is the drive from Carmel to downtown Indianapolis. It's not that bad though. I've already signed up for an Audible account and start listening to some audiobooks.
But that's exactly what I did. I made that commute from downtown to Fishers, which is pretty close, for many years. And I got a Sirius XM radio. Actually, it was Sirius, or no, it was XM at the time. I had one of those satellite radios, just had something to listen to on the way there and back. So you will definitely need that. I'll say one thing for you. This coming session is the short session, but in 2 years from now, when they have the budget session, the legislature is known to meet until 2, 3, 4 in the morning. I think they actually keep some of the pizza places downtown busy just from staff and media who are covering. So be prepared for that. Hopefully it won't be that way in the next session. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk movies. We have a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about In the Heights. Alec and I have seen it. Adam already talked about it in our last session. But I want to talk about an offshoot, a story that has surfaced that is connected to In the Heights. We all know who Rita Moreno is. In fact, there's a new documentary film just coming out, I think this weekend, about her here in Indianapolis, which I hope I get the chance to see. But Rita Moreno had a guest appearance on Stephen Colbert's show, his late night show, and made a comment about Lin-Manuel Miranda and John Chu, who was one of the producers and, of course, created the whole thing, In the Heights and Hamilton and all that. And there was a comment made about dark-skinned Afro-Latinos and how the film was cast. Perhaps those folks didn't get enough of the roles in that film. She made some very controversial comments about it, like, get over it, it's okay. Later on, apologized for that, saying she really shouldn't have said it that way. Adam, I know you've read some of the, I have not seen the appearance. I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere, just haven't had a chance to see it. But it was pretty quick. Rita Moreno the next day said, look, I was wrong. Shouldn't have said that. Gave people the wrong impression. I wonder what you think of all this hubbub.
So I think it's all ridiculous. First off, I loved In the Heights. I think it is a positive thing for the Latino and Hispanic community to see a movie that celebrates their culture with full cast in the same way that Crazy Rich Asians really both these movies created additional opportunities for people of color to have starring roles in big budget movies. So it is a positive force in both movies, both directed by director John M. Chu. To start nitpicking, and they did the same thing with Crazy Rich Asians, is why I bring it up. In Crazy Rich Asians, which Asian people praise, saying, hey, it was great to finally see a big movie with us on the screen where we celebrated our culture, but it wasn't stereotypical. They criticized that actor Henry Goulding was, I guess, half English. And they said he had white features, and that, of course, the romantic lead had to have white features, and that a lot of them weren't from certain parts of Southeast Asia. I think while those criticisms might be valid, I think they're misplaced. And I hate to see in either movie, we start to really denigrate something that is a positive force. Maybe it is a step in the right direction, but let's not belittle a step because everything isn't exactly how you want it. Lin-Manuel Miranda did the right thing strategically. He apologized. He said, the criticism is valid. I will learn and do better. Thank you. And that was the smart thing to say to kind of end it. Rita Moreno was saying what all of us want to say, is the fact that, and she is a Latino legend. And she says, hey, this guy is doing so many positive things for the Latino community. He gives millions of dollars to Puerto Rico for their relief. He speaks up on issues. He fights for inclusion, not only behind the scenes, but in front of the camera. And you're attacking this guy? So Rita Moreno was dead on right. And now she's walking back her apology because someone told her, well, wait a second, don't defend Lin-Manuel Miranda. He already apologized. Just let his apology stand. You don't need to defend him. He's a big boy. He can handle himself. I get that. But I agreed with Rita Moreno's original statement. We are getting way out of control with this. Maybe it is cancel culture, but this is such a good-hearted, positive force. Why are you attacking this?
Let me ask Alec something, because when I read about this, what this reminded me of was, and I can't even remember the name of the film, I'm just thinking of it now, a film done by Spike Lee many years ago where he talked about this tension between light-skinned African Americans and dark-skinned African Americans.
Thinking of Jungle Fever, maybe?
It wasn't Jungle Fever, it was another one, but I just, it's a matter of, it's hard to understand the tensions that are racial in nature. When you heard about this controversy, what was your reaction, Alec?
I think a lot of folks are overreacting. Granted, I've never been to Washington Heights. I don't know the makeup of the neighborhood. I'm glad I've seen In the Heights now. I thought it was a wonderful movie. It's one of my favorite movies of the year thus far. As far as I remember, there's only one white character in the movie, and he's not portrayed especially glowingly. I think
was
there's
the white character.
The guy who's doing the deal with Jimmy Smits, like the landowner guy.
Oh yeah, that was I forgot about him.
That's pretty much the only white character in the movie, as far as I remember. He's not in it much, and he's not portrayed especially well. I'm not African American. I'm not Hispanic. I probably don't have a horse in the race because of this, and my opinion matters less than those folks. Was I offended by the movie? No. One of the main characters of the movie is black. So,
and in the original Broadway production, there was apparently a storyline where there was some tension between Jimmy Smits' character. It wasn't Jimmy Smits in the Broadway character, but his character, because he didn't want his daughter to date an African American. Now that was removed for the movie version, which kind of lessened the development of those two storylines. But I understand, you want to show everything in positive terms. But the bottom line, the reason I bring that up, it's a messy, complicated issue. And this is a 2-hour movie. We can't delve into everything.
Well, and I will say one thing. Rita Moreno, in her apology, Twitter, I think it was a Twitter message, said this: "It is so easy to forget how celebration for some is lament for others." So I think this is more of just understanding that tension within that community and recognizing it and moving forward from there. From that, I want to talk to Alec here for a moment, because Adam glowingly talked about In the Heights in our last podcast. And I'd just like to, Alec, you've seen In the Heights as I have. I'd like to hear your views on it first.
Thought it was a beautiful movie. It's one of the best movies I've seen this year. I never did see Crazy Rich Asians. I liked In the Heights well enough. I'm going to go back and check out Crazy Rich Asians, because I want more of John Chu's work. Thought the music was beautiful. Thought the performances were beautiful. I didn't watch it in a movie theater, which I sort of regret. I watched it here at my house. I have a 55-inch TV and surround sound, and I cranked it pretty loud. I enjoyed it very, very much. I'll probably go see it in a movie theater, Dolby or IMAX if possible.
Should we check the police blotter to see if there are any complaints about like noise and coming from your place?
I mean, I live on 2/3 of an acre, and I've definitely, there's some space between me and my neighbors, so I didn't hear anything from them. But my wife and her girlfriend who are here were like, "Can you turn it down a little bit?" So.
Let me say a few words about it too. I really like this film as well. I think what struck me about this film was the timing. Sometimes timing is everything. And I'm sure when this film was produced, nobody knew it was going to come out at the time we are beginning to emerge from COVID. The pandemic is not over, folks, and I won't get into all that, but we're seeing variants that are pretty scary right now. that could change this overnight. But right now, the vaccination rates are helping those of us who are vaccinated have much more normal lives than we had before. And In the Heights, the timing of this coming out, such a joyous film, the great music, the great dance routines, choreography, everything was done so well. And I wrote in my review that I generally I'm not a big fan of the song and dance.
Nor I.
And so I mean, I like something. Singing in the Rain is a great, classic film. For example, West Side Story is still a classic film and one of the best. So I have pretty high standards when it comes to that kind of film, because there are a lot of bad ones out there. Go to the 40s, and that was the big thing. And there were some good ones, and there were some pretty awful ones. So my view is this was done very. This is not an easy thing to do. And John Chu and his whole crew, all the choreographers, people doing the music, top-notch job. And the music told the story to a great extent, but the dialogue was also extremely well written. Tremendous story. And it was a kind of a gentle story. You have to have conflict for there to be a compelling story you want to watch, but they were very gentle with their conflicts. The biggest conflict was the young girl who was pressured by her father to go back to school. He was selling everything he had to get her to school. She didn't feel like she fit in at Stanford, on the other side of the country from New York City, where she was from, and how much she enjoyed being back in her old neighborhood, seeing all the people she knew. So there's a lot to like in this film. It's just a joyous film, a nice film, and you walk away feeling good. You feel great. In the Heights is a film I'd recommend for just about anybody, pretty much for the whole family. There might be some issues for very young kids, but I think most people are going to enjoy this film, and I really highly recommend it. I know both of you do as well. So this is a good news story as we come out of the pandemic. There's one thing that does disappoint me, and I'm going to ask Adam about this. The box office on this film the first weekend didn't really, it came well under expectations. I'm hoping, Adam, this is one of those films where word of mouth will get out and it will begin to pick up steam. What do you think?
I think hopefully word of mouth will pick up. And this may sound crazy. I think this film might get Oscar nominations. And sometimes when the nominations come out, they put the movies back out in theaters and people go see them again. So perhaps that will happen way down the road, 6 months from now. But it was disappointing. And my first reaction was, it's because it was streaming simultaneously on HBO Max. People decided to watch it at home instead of going to the theater if they had HBO Max. That's what I thought. Now, the people behind HBO say that's not true, that if a movie does well in the box office, it does well on HBO Max. If it does poorly in the box office, it does poorly on HBO Max. They say the numbers pretty much correlate. Now, they don't have to tell us how many people are watching on HBO Max, so they may not be 100% honest, but who knows? I'm just a little surprised. Crazy Rich, I thought, are people not ready for an all Hispanic kind of movie, or they maybe some racism or just uncomfortableness? But Crazy Rich Asians was a huge hit at the box office, very similar in that regard. So I don't know. I do have one theory. The whole box office was not great this weekend. And I think as more people get vaccinated and move towards the pandemic, I think two things. One, when people are going out and leaving their house and doing something, maybe they don't want to sit in a darkened theater and be quiet. Maybe they want to go interact with people and go to a music festival, or they want to be with people, since that's what they haven't done for a year. And sitting in a darkened theater, while it may appeal to the three of us, maybe it doesn't appeal to them. I also had to say it. When will movie theaters maybe re-examine some of the mask rules too? Now, I know the mask rules aren't super enforced, is what I hear. You can eat your popcorn slowly, and even if you don't, there's not really anyone checking, is what I hear. But just hearing what
it's been lifted at AMC if you're vaccinated.
So yeah, so that'll help, because I've been vaccinated, but I'll be honest, I'm not eager to put the mask. I will do it if I'm told to, but if I walk into a place and they say we do not require a mask, I'm vaccinated. I may not put it on. So I don't know if other people are starting to get that fatigue, the mask fatigue as well.
I have this.
I'm
Sorry. You can go ahead, Larry, if you'd like. And then
I'm just going to say real quickly that I just saw an article on Axios.com that the Players Association and the NFL have reached an agreement, and there's a big difference. If you're a vaccinated NFL player, you pretty much do anything you want. If you're a non-vaccinated NFL player, I mean, the restrictions are draconian. I couldn't believe it. So I think even though the vaccination rates amongst NFL players has been fairly low, it's sort of 50.
And speaking of that, Chris Paul, who I'm a fan of, is not going to be playing in the next game for the Western Conference Finals of the NBA playoffs because of COVID protocols. Mm-hmm. Larry, this is a guy's, he's 36 years old. He's not going to have that many chances to win a title, and COVID's going to derail it.
Well, he made his choice, didn't he? And it didn't work out well for him. But anyway, Alec, I want to get back to let's get back to the film.
I do suspect In the Heights may pull a move like The Greatest Showman did a few years back, open with low numbers and then build over time. I could see this movie holding and doing good money for a prolonged period of time. I think it's going to be around for a lot of the summer.
Yeah, and I think it's unfair to compare.
Or at least I'm hoping it.
It's unfair to compare a Memorial Day weekend box office with a non holiday box office. So maybe In the Heights got hurt by that, but I do think In the Heights is going to pick up steam. That's my view. I think once the word gets out and more people read the reviews and talk to their friends, I'm thinking this film will do well. So In the Heights, we all like the film. We all recommend it. We hope if you like musicals, it's the best kind of musical I've seen for many years. So I would recommend it. We all would recommend it. And we hope you take the time to see it. You can see it on HBO Max if you have that. But of course, the movie theater is the best place to watch a film of this caliber. With that in mind, our reviewers have new films to review. Let's start with Adam Austin, your latest film.
All right, I've got something from Pixar, and a new Pixar movie. Isn't that exciting? That's one of the biggest names in movies, regularly winning the Best Animated Feature at the Oscars, sometimes even getting a Best Picture nomination, as they did for, I believe, Toy Story 3, Inside Out, and maybe something else. I can't remember everything, but they have consistently elevated the animation game beyond something just for kids and do something that even adults, childless adults, can enjoy too. So we all enjoy Pixar. Their latest offering is not going to be in theaters. It originally was planned for that, and then they decided to make it streaming only on Disney Plus. It does not cost you the extra $30 like Cruella or Luca, or the Raya and the Last Dragon. And that'll be the same price package for Black Widow when it comes out. This one, free to watch on there. And it is an enjoyable movie. Just to tell you about the story, it is about two young boys who are actually sea monsters, kind of bright blue-green color. And the young sea monster named Luca, he is curious about life above the shore and the humans. And his parents tell him, don't go anywhere near the surface. But he rebels. He goes out there, and to his surprise, as soon as he walked on land, he transforms into a human shape. And it's kind of a fun visual gimmick that you see throughout the movie. Anytime there's water on the sea monsters, they're seen as sea monsters, even a part of their face. So if they get water on part of their face, then that part of their face becomes sea monstery. But if they're dry, immediately they become human. So it becomes a fun sight gag. He makes a friend who is a sea monster who prefers to live life as a human. A young boy named Alberto, who's slightly older, and he teaches him the ways of human life. They find all these artifacts in their treehouse. It kind of reminds you of Stand By Me there. And they're discovering the world. And of course, they have inaccurate descriptions of what these human relics do. But their ultimate goal is to get a Vespa, because they're on the Italian countryside. And a Vespa is the ultimate freedom, and you can ride it through there, and you can go anywhere you want. When Luca finds out that his parents want to ship him to the bottom of the ocean with his creepy uncle because of his disobedience, he runs away, and him and Alberto go to this small little fishing village in Italy called Porto Rosso, which sounds a lot like Studio Ghibli film you might know, Porco Rosso. It's a little homage there. and they decide to compete in a triathlon, which includes eating pasta, riding a bike, and swimming, which they decline, even though they're the best swimmers, because they don't want their identities to be known. They want everyone to think they're human, and they want to beat the arrogant bully and win the race and get a Vespa. And so it's a really nice story. I enjoyed it. The only problem with Luca, and others have said this too, is it doesn't feel particularly original. Even the story about a sea creature who yearns to go above the surface and meet humans, and then has to hide themselves once they get in human form and doesn't know the customs, sounds an awful lot like Disney's The Little Mermaid. The animation kind of looks like Wallace and Gromit. It's or maybe Wes Anderson stop animation. And there's also a lot of homages to Federico Fellini films or some old Italian classics. And I even, and this may sound weird, thought there was some parallels to Call Me By Your Name, the LGBT Oscar-nominated film by Luca Guadagnino. Yeah.
Were there any peaches in this movie?
What?
Were there any peaches in this movie?
No, there weren't any peaches. But I will say, and I'm not saying this to try to ruin the movie or anything, because I don't think this ruins it, but I do think maybe there's some LGBT themes in this film, because it's a story about self-discovery and finding yourself, and then having to hide your true self, just like these creatures hide their sea monster self, and for fear of being caught and ridiculed. So that might be a kind of a parallel to some of the gay rights movement there. I think Chris Lloyd, one of our friends, talked about how it's going through that age of puberty and weird things are happening to your body when you're age 13. And in this movie, weird things happen to your body quite literally, whether it's human or sea monster. That's an interesting changing body there. So there's a lot of interesting themes. It doesn't dive deep as, say, Inside Out or Coco or Soul. So it's not near that Mount Rushmore of great Pixar films. It's about the middle if you're going to make a list of all their movies. But a middle of the ground Pixar movie is still really good. I mean, I gave it 3.5. Other people maybe gave it 3.5 out of 5. Other people gave it 4 out of 5. It is a very above average film, and it's worth a stream. You don't hold it to the standards of, the greatest Pixar films, and you'll enjoy it quite a bit.
Let me ask you a question that I ask about a lot of animated films, be it a TV series or a feature film.
Yeah.
The people who do these films and market them say a couple of things about any animated production. If you can get the kids to watch it, great. That's one hurdle you have to get through. If you can get the kids to have the mom watch it, man, that's really great. You're really getting a great audience. But if you can get the dad to watch it as well with the kids, and it was appeal to the dad as well, then you've got a hit. So my question to you, Adam, is you're the father of a 2-year-old. Is this a film you would watch with your child?
Yes, but maybe not rewatch as much. And I'll put it this way. The great Pixar movies, like I said, you may not even have kids and you could watch them and completely enjoy them. And not just some people, many people without kids watching it and enjoying it. This one, it's not like there are some Pixar movies that I think are just for kids. I'd put the Cars movies in that. I'm really not into the Cars films, especially the sequels. The Good Dinosaur was one that I felt was really kind of meant for kids, or even A Bug's Life and earlier Pixar work. This one I would watch. I did watch it or reviewed it, and I would have watched it anyways and enjoyed it. But I wouldn't be eager to rewatch this one as much as a child would, put it that way.
Okay, so I think you've given us a good rundown on that. A good film, but not the best Pixar film, but a better than average Pixar film is still a pretty good film in your view. Let me switch to Alec. Alec, I know you have at least one review to share with us.
Yeah, I published a review yesterday of a movie. It's a sequel from an action comedy from 2017. This one's called The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard. It's a sequel to The Hitman's Bodyguard. It stars Ryan Reynolds, Samuel L. Jackson, Salma Hayek, Antonio Banderas, Morgan Freeman, and Frank Grillo. The movie was somewhat of a disappointment to me as somebody who enjoyed the first installment. I found the laughs somewhat lacking and the action somewhat lacking as well. I had some fun with the movie when you have a cast that good and you get Italian scenery. And honestly, a lot of the movie was probably filmed in Eastern Europe, subbing for other places. But it was okay. I gave it 2.5 out of 5 stars. I don't necessarily recommend it, but it's not the worst thing I've seen this year either.
So does it kind of get into that sequels are hard to do category?
Sequels are tough, and sequels with a comedic element are certainly tough. This time they seem to go dirtier. Every other word was the F word in the movie, and not just from Sam Jackson. I think Salma Hayek dropped at least 40 or 50 herself. The movie was only okay. I found it sort of redundant. I don't necessarily want to see a third installment. I don't need to see the hitman's wife's bodyguard's cousin or whatever. I'm okay. So,
All right. No, so we have one recommendation from Adam and a not so recommended film from Alec.
I want to throw in one thing on Alec's thing. Comedy sequels are really hard to do in general. I think if you were to look at all like the sequels to comedy films, I know it's an action comedy. There's maybe a 20 in the history of all movies that are like as good as the original. And you think of all the comedy sequels, there's some terrible ones. Caddyshack 2,
Bernie's 2.
Weekend at Bernie's. Well, I mean, the first one wasn't that good for Weekend at Bernie's.
If you're in the right mindset.
But yeah, comedy sequels, they're really hard to do for whatever reason. So I think you're right on there.
Yeah, I think comedy is hard to do, period. You know, I mean, talk to any actor who's worked on stage or screen, talk to any director, and they'll tell you the hardest thing to do is make people laugh because the timing and everything has to be so perfect. You mess it up one little bit. Look at a stand-up comic who blows a line and he or she is furious at the end because, you know, they had that all set up and it didn't work out the way they wanted. So sequels are hard. I just think comedy is hard to begin with. So I'm surprised people even do those sequels, but it's usually the studio saying, hey, people like the first film, let's go for the second. It's the old studio thing. Let me just talk about something a little bit. We don't often talk about series on streaming or cable, but I want to talk about this because there is an interesting connection with film here. There's a series that HBO has been doing for several years called In Treatment. It started off with Gabriel Byrne, the actor playing a therapist called Paul Weston, and they set it up a really interesting way. It was on like 3 or 4 nights a week. And for the first, let's say 3 nights, you have different patients being treated each night. And the 4th night, Gabriel Byrne's character goes in to see his therapist, and you realize his patients' lives are a mess, but his life is maybe a worse mess than his patients. And so that went on for 3 seasons, and I thought it was that the writing was really good. Gabriel Byrne did the acting just exactly as needed to be done. So that was the first 3 seasons, and then the season just ended, and that ended that In Treatment series. Now it's been rebooted, and what we have is a student of or a protege of this Dr. Paul Weston, Gabriel Byrne's character. And it is played by Uzo Aduba. She's best known for a Netflix series, but she is an outstanding actress. She plays the therapist. And for 3 nights, Monday, I guess they actually do 2 a night. So there's Sunday and Monday, and they'll have 2 on each night. And the first episode is a young man who's named Eladio, who takes care of for a rich family, a disabled son that they have. And guess who plays Eladio? Anthony Ramos, the man who starred in The Heights. So Anthony Ramos shows his versatility as an actor. He does an amazing job playing this character who works for this rich family and has all these issues underneath the surface, as all of these patients do. Then there's Colin, a white-collar criminal who cannot get out of prison unless this therapist clears him to do that. So that's an interesting situation. Then there's a teenager named Layla who is messed up teenager, rebellious. And then on the final night of each week, it's Brooke Taylor is the name of the character that Uzo plays. And she talks to her. She's basically got an alcoholic problem and talks to her counselor, who's also a personal friend when she struggles herself. And she has an off and on boyfriend that slips in and out of the picture. So if you have HBO or HBO Max, In Treatment has come back, high quality series, and I'm in the middle of watching it right now. It's still got a few episodes left to go, and very intelligent. There's some comedic moments in there, but it's a pretty serious look at people who are in treatment, and not only the people in treatment, the people who treat the people who are in treatment, who have imperfect lives as well. So that's my review.
The original was on everyone has a list of shows that you're like, I always meant to watch that, and they never did for whatever reason. In Treatment was on that for me, along with The Americans. I'm like, everyone keeps saying the show is good. I'm like, and you try to watch an episode. What?
The Americans is really good.
You see, everyone says it's good, and then everyone has shows like that, and you're like, I'm going to watch this one day. I'm going to sit down and watch it, and then you try to watch one episode and you fall asleep, and for whatever reason, it just never happens.
Well, now HBO Max, with the old HBO on cable, you could not go back and watch those old episodes. Now with HBO Max, you can go back and watch the all those in 3 seasons of previous of In Treatment. Again, Adam, you do have to stay awake. But
well, I mean, so do they have any now? I guess in therapy, so much is virtual now.
The Anthony Ramos character is, because he's taking care of this disabled.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
So he is on that. I understand he's actually going to show up in person for the first time this week, based on a preview I saw. But he has been online. The others are there in person. But so there is a sort of a nod of the head to that, and there are some references to COVID and the fact that the therapist is doing the work from her home rather than an office. So there are some.
Oh, that's kind of. I don't know if I was a therapist, I'd want people to come over to my house and know where I live.
That does enter into the plot.
Oh, I'm spoiling things now.
That does enter into it somewhat. Yeah, that's not. Yeah, I'll just say that much. So this I think good drama, good writing, good cinema is good wherever you find it. If it's an HBO or in a movie theater, and highly recommend that series. In Treatment, it is still running on its 4th rebooted season on HBO, and you can watch all of them all the way back to the original series with Gabriel Byrne on HBO Max, and I would recommend that as well.
Is Byrne on the new show at all?
Say again, I'm sorry?
Is Gabriel Byrne on the new show at all?
That's interesting. He's referred to because he's like, she is like her, he picked her out as somebody to sort of move along in her career. He became a mentor to her. And there's one scene where he's trying to call her and she won't take the call. There's issues there. Then in a more recent episode, she tries to call him and say, hey, apparently they're in Los Angeles. This is where this is set. So she made a reference to her friend who comes over that he is going to be in Los Angeles. So I'm wondering if Gabriel Byrne will make some kind of an appearance late in the series. We'll see.
He's a good actor. I haven't seen him in a while, so it'd be cool to see him on there.
He's fairly particular about his roles, and he likes the stage as well as cinemas. But yeah, Gabriel Byrne is a very accomplished actor. Okay, this will be our final shot. Anything that you gentlemen would like to add before we wrap this up, and I'll have Adam start.
So I got a fun column I'm working on. It may take me a while, but maybe I might want to get some input from you guys later on. So I'm going to do a review of the new Purge movie that's coming out in a couple weeks. So I thought it would be fun to write a column, and I'll do this on both the Film Yap and Grade A Movies, looking at it from a criminal justice and sociology perspective of would the Purge work in real life? And my one, it's morally wrong. The premise of the Purge, where crime is legal for 12 hours every night. But I'm going to take the premise that it wouldn't work, even though it's morally wrong, it wouldn't work because it misunderstands how crime actually occurs. And you'll have to read more to find out why that is. But hey, you could talk for an hour about that. It's an interesting concept of why criminals commit crimes, and premeditated versus opportunity versus things that are going on in their lives, and why this movie isn't realistic, Larry. Is that surprising?
So the Purge is not realistic. I'm shocked.
No, it wouldn't really work.
I'm a big Purge head. I've seen all 4 of the movies thus far and watched both seasons of the television show. So
well, we're gonna have when we get to that point and it's 4th of July weekend, me and Alec will have a spirited discussion about the Purge series. And even if you haven't seen the movies, Larry, you being a journalist and knowing about crime, you report on crime in Fishers, you'll be able to chime in, I'm sure.
Well, Adam, you and I both worked the crime beat at some point in our career. I mean, the crime beat in Fishers, thankfully, is not very long. There's not a lot there, but I would say that I saw one Purge movie a while back. I've not seen all 4. I saw one of them, and it's like, what in the world is this?
Larry's one and done on the Purge.
It's like, what an idea for a film. And this whole idea of what I guess from what I've seen, and I don't know, have you actually seen have you screened the new Purge movie?
No, I haven't gotten the new one yet, but I was rewatching some of the old ones. And yeah, I mean, we'll get into more. I think I started thinking about it more. I'm like, this wouldn't work, because if you really, just to hint at it, like say you want to kill your ex-wife, are you really going to wait 9 months to the Purge night to do that? And even so, wouldn't your ex-wife be like, hey, I've got to, what?
It's called discipline, Adam.
Well, most murderers are like emotional people, I would think. I guess somebody might plan 9 months. I'm going to kill her on this night and I'll never get away with it. But wouldn't your ex-wife be like, hey, I've got a crazy ex. Maybe I need to barricade myself this one night because he might try to use that opportunity.
Well, I think that what this film, what the Purge film I saw showed me, is that it's a recognition that most, as you had just said, most crimes are passion of the moment crimes. Not all. Okay?
Yeah.
But a large number of them. I mean, because you have a weapon near you, you kill somebody rather than knock them.
Well, I'll say actually 70% of all murders are premeditated.
Well, depends on
and
define.
When I get this article out, Larry, I got so many statistics in here. I'm going to have usually you don't get a lot of statistics on the Film Yap and Grade A movies, but I'm going to be coming with some criminal justice statistics. So that's something to look forward to.
I think you're probably scaring Nicole. Pump the brakes, playa.
Nicole, I think you're safe. That's all.
She's tougher than him. She's tougher than me. She's probably tougher than me.
I can just, my wife is definitely tougher than me. I can assure
mine
you.
too.
Okay, Alec, final thoughts from you.
I'll have a few more reviews coming out this week. One of them later today of the Kevin Hart Netflix movie Fatherhood. I'll also have one either today or tomorrow of an action movie called Take Back. So keep an eye out for those, please.
Yes, Living Room Theaters is at the Bottle Works complex on the north end of Massachusetts Avenue in downtown Indianapolis. I've been there a couple of times. They have very comfortable chairs as they live up to their name. I understand they have a grand opening coming up to kind of reveal everything now that the film industry has settled down and people are starting to come back to the movie theater. And of course, we have the Hamilton Town Center Cinema, which had been closed because of the Goodrich Theater bankruptcy. There's a new owner ready to reopen that. The last I was told, July is the goal to get that open again. That's a beautiful theater complex, and looking forward to going. That's pretty not that far from where I live, so I do look forward to going back to the movies at that complex. Okay, gentlemen.
Even though I got some dogs barking in the background, there's one more thing I wanted to say. Sorry, they always bark at the end, Larry. It's like they're telling us it's the wrap it up sign from the Oscars. They're telling me to wrap it up.
So that's your cue that we've gone long enough.
Yeah, but I do want to say two things real quick. Flicks Brew House in Carmel isn't reopened yet, but the other locations, no Flicks location nationwide was open yet. They are starting to open some of their other locations nationwide, which is an encouraging sign for the Carmel location to open one day. And I know a lot of people really miss it and really enjoy it. And finally, if you like the Grade A Movies podcast, it is available on many different ways. Obviously, if you're hearing this, you've listened to the end. So you must really be a fan, or you'll be a future fan. You can get it on Larry Lannon. He has a whole podcast archive of, you can go back and listen to that, even back to the Hamilton County Goes to the Movie days. And that is on iTunes and also on SoundCloud and on his website, larryandfishers.com. We have a Facebook page, the Grade A Movies Facebook page, where you can see the video. If you really need to see me while I'm talking or Alec while he's talking, you can get that. We've got a YouTube page. We've got the podcast separated into its own if you really don't want Fisher's politics, which I like. I think it's interesting. But, you could get that on iTunes, Spotify. I think we're also now on Google Podcasts and also on SoundCloud. And if you sign up for the Substack for filmyap.com, and if you go to Grade A Movies, I put a link in there for you to do that. You sign up for the Substack, you get articles emailed to you. You don't have to go to the website. So you'll get Alec's reviews from the Film Yap, mine, other people's reviews, and we'll be sending out new episodes of this podcast every time on the Substack email. So you don't even have to wonder where the next episode comes out. You will get it right there.
Yes, and I subscribe to that. Love it. See your reviews as soon as they are put onto Film Yap. I'm also a fan of gradeamovies.com. So once again, these two gentlemen here, their reviews are on gradeamovies.com, and they're one of two of several reviewers that post reviews at thefilmyap.com. And I post my reviews at larryandfishers.com. I put mine on podcast form. So you can see my podcasts are available, larryandfishers.com, podcasts by Larry Lannon, if you're looking for them, and you'll see them all. And I have all my film reviews, and these podcasts are also on there. I don't know. One last question for each of you. I'll ask Alec to start this. There is a debate. Should a podcast be on video or audio? I find that a lot of people like the audio version of a podcast because you can take a jog, you can mow the lawn. Some people work while they listen. Audio versus video, where do you come down?
Me personally, as a consumer, I tend to opt for audio. I'll listen while I'm mowing the grass or walking my dog. I listen to a lot less podcasts than I used to. I'm not in an office every day as I once was. So for me, as a consumer, it'd be audio, but it's nice to see people's faces, especially, if they're as handsome as you two fellas. I should probably put my mask back on for this so I'm not scaring people. But yeah.
No, I must say I'm an audiophile. I prefer my face not be anywhere, but that's just me. So, Adam, you an audiophile or videophile or both?
I think both are good. If you have a video one, you don't have to look at the video. There's some things on YouTube that I have my headphones on and the phone's sitting down because the visuals aren't necessarily that needed. I think it helps that each of us have distinct voices. If we had a podcast, I've listened to some podcasts where some of the people really had similar voices, and I almost needed a video to know who's talking now because they just sounded so much alike. I don't sound like Larry, so I think it's easy to tell us apart.
Who does? No one sounds like Larry but Larry.
We all three have our own distinct voices, however they may be. So I want to thank you, gentlemen, taking time out again for a gradeamovies.com podcast. It's been my pleasure to talk to you again. Thefilmyap.com, gradeamovies.com. That's where you'll find those two gentlemen's reviews. Mine will be at larryinfishers.com. We thank you very much for watching and listening. And please, if you like this video, audio, and however you consume this, let other people know and just share the link. You can find it on all the different platforms that Adam mentioned earlier. And so for now, please, we ask you all to please be safe and be kind.